Hi, y'all. Welcome back to episode 3 of the history of. Today we're going to be talking about the Miami tribe. Uh, they extended all the way through Indiana, Ohio, of course, up into the Great Lakes, Illinois, Lower Michigan, and clear west to Lower Wisconsin. They were an Algonquin speaking tribe. The first contact they had with Europeans was in the late 1600s by Jesuit priests, followed fairly closely behind by French and British, who were trying to gain control of the Great Lakes. For those of you who don't know the Great Lakes, you very easily can get from Wisconsin to New York and then through the Hudson River and out into not just the Hudson Bay, but out into the Atlantic Ocean very easily with minimal time if you go through the Great Lakes and then through waterways. So it is very important to keep control of waterways, especially at that time. At that time, they numbered in the Miami Nation numbered in the tens of thousands, which, if you think about it, is a ton of people living in a fairly large area. Their name in their language, let's see if I can pronounce this correctly. If I'm wrong, please correct me. The Miami, which means the downstream people. In their history, their culture and their people and their tribe really started at the area where the St. James River empties into Lake Michigan up in Canada, and they eventually spread to where they controlled. They were a mostly agricultural society, but they did migrate with the seasons. So in the fall, they planted corn and preserved that and grew it in the winter months. The larger villages actually broke up into smaller hunting bands and moved into winter cabins closer to where their hunting fields were. And then in the spring, the women and children would move to where their sugar maple groves were, and they would collect sap, process it into maple syrup, or sugar syrup because they were sugar maples, and they would use that for food, they would preserve it, and then they would also use it for trade. By 1846, half of the 600 or so who had survived the years of war and disease and encroachment by Europeans settling in their lands and kind of pushing, not kind of, very much pushing them out of their own lands. They were forcibly removed and settled west of the Mississippi River in Indian Territory. They settled in what is currently Kansas. And they were able to rebuild. They were able to adjust to from living in a very forested area with a lot of small rivers where they could hunt, and they would hunt deer and elk and bison, to moving out into the plains where they were still able to hunt bison, but it was a new ecosystem entirely. Um, on the plains and the short grass prairies, as opposed to the wooded lands that they had known up in the Great Lakes region. By the end of the 1860s and into the 1870s, they were forced to leave that area of Indian Territory because of encroachment by, at that point, Americans who were expanding into what was then Indian Territory. It was not a part of the United States fully, it was Indian Territory. And now they were getting pushed further, and they were pushed into the southern part of Indian Territory, which is current day the northeastern part of Oklahoma. There they lived in the same area which had been home to the, and I'm gonna, again, if I say this wrong, please correct me, the Osage, the Osage people, and the Kewapah people. Um, they also ended up living in a similar area to where other tribes from the Great Lakes region also got moved, those being the Wyandot, the Peoria, the Ottawa, the Seneca Cayuga, and the Shawnee peoples. That is where they currently are. They are still a strong living nation. Their website will be linked in the description if you want more information or if you want any kind of other explanations for something that I have said or maybe I skipped over. Um, feel free to check them out and also let me know, please, if I said any of the native words wrong because I feel like I did. But that is it for the Miami tribe, and the next on the list is the Wyandotte. So we will hear about you all will hear about them next week, and have a good weekend. Bye everyone.